Order. Has the meeting been properly noticed?
Yes, it has.
Moving on to recognitions. Anyone from the board have anything to share with us?
I do. So at the Center for All, what was this meeting called? The debrief from the IDI assessment?
Yes.
Oh, I should have prepared something more eloquent than this, because the groups, so several groups stood up and shared their take on our results as a district. And it was just the vulnerability and the humility and the willingness to put in the work and to seek out resources and make our district stronger. It was kind of emotional to watch, and I just was so proud to see such a broad representation across the district with such dedication to our students. And so I really appreciate it.
Anyone else from the board?
I've got some recognition, I guess. So I want to let people know, I want to be on record as saying that I appreciate and I respect the people that sent us emails, spoke to us, and things like that before the whole masking thing. I also want to say that every one of us board members obviously is here to listen to people. We try to listen to people. We try to respond to emails. We read emails. We do our own homework. And obviously, we have Jim as a leader for a reason, and we gave him the power to make those decisions, and I respect the decision that he made, and I'm glad that certain people understand that. I, however, don't appreciate when board members are personally attacked, when board members are threatened with physical harm, and things like that, and we shouldn't have people gathering at meetings, blocking doors for access to our meetings and things like that. I don't appreciate that part, and I'll go on record as saying that. Thanks.
Anyone else from the board? Anyone from the admin team that we will may or may not hear from later on?
I would like to express my appreciation for John Richter and Laura Melby, who participated with me in delivering a trauma-informed care training to the middle school and high school staff, as well as all of our special education assistants, and Taylor Sorrentino as well. And we'll also be providing that training at Westview and New Wilkins throughout the course of the year, more often at the high school throughout the course of the year. They did an excellent job, and I'm very happy to be working with them.
I'm going to mention that as well. Really powerful presentation on what trauma-informed care means, and I think it's really going to benefit our staff. Just some great questions, some great conversations about how we can support students in so many different ways.
I just want to recognize the new staff that we have here at Platteville. They had a full week last week, and I just, again, publicly just want to recognize the hard work that they had. Seemed like a great bunch. That has filtered over to their hard work and dedication as we brought the entire staff, but yeah, they just, I'm excited to see how they work with our kids.
I guess just the last recognition, all of the students and families that participated and had exhibits at the Grant County Fair as well as the State Fair, they worked really hard and they represented themselves well.
I would like to add off of what Max or Mr. Long and what Mr. Cray said. For a number of years now, I've been a mental health first aid trainer, and I know that was brought up at the last board meeting, but this trauma-informed care goes deeper in depth of what the first aid or mental health first aid training does. It encompasses a lot more people, and especially our staff, to get involved and form a lot of great relationships with kids and to view kids in a different way. So I think we're in the right step of this trauma-informed care, and I was impressed with the presentation today.
I would like to recognize the staff and our presenter today. We had from Seclusion. Her name was Angie Freeze, and she presented on assessment and the assessment cycle and using our standards and setting learning targets. And she did a great job, and our staff were thoroughly engaged and had nothing but good things to say about today.
And I would like to recognize some of my staff who were gave up some time some were paid and some were volunteered this summer. We had a family event each month this summer to get families into our area to kind of help them with the transition from school or from home to school. I appreciate everybody's willingness, and we had 50 families in June and July, and in August we had like 100 families, so it was really well received.
Cool. It covers the behind us. Jim, do you have anything to share with us?
I will have my recognitions later on in the consent agenda.
Moving on to opportunity for public input. Anything tonight, Lynn?
Huh?
Anyone?
No way.
Okay. Items on the consent agenda.
Within our consent agenda, we have 4A, the adoption of the consent agenda. 4B, the minutes of our previous meeting on August the 11th. 4C, we have new hires for special education. Within that, we have one job increase from 0.6 to 0.1. We also have 4 other positions that we are recommending for hire. And there is a chart provided that I believe it does a nice job of capturing how fluid this personnel grouping is. And it really is that bottom piece there with the asterisk. It's just related to student needs as defined in their IEPs. And then we have those 4 employees then to approve. We have on 4D, that's the position increase that I had mentioned earlier. For E, we have Jason Sass to head up the high school musical set, and then also Madison Devlin to be an assistant volleyball coach. And letter F, the donations for June, July, and August of '21, not to fully appreciate all of the donations because there are substantial donations above, but I would like to highlight the elementary school supplies just to capture our school district. Starting last year, we provided school supplies for our early learning center and our elementary school. We increased that up through our middle school this year. And what we have listed there are some of the larger donations that were provided from our community, from families, from businesses, just people that care about our students. All told, it was around $10,000 in donations that our district received from our community. And it's a budgeted item of anywhere from $40,000 to $45,000 from the school. So I think that is an exceptional gift from those people that donated, and it speaks highly of our community.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Kurt, second by Matt to approve the items on the consent agenda as presented. Any questions or comments on those? Seeing or hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. We now need a motion and a second for the action and information item agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Vicky, second by Matt to approve the information and action item agenda. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Information items,
ESSER 1, ESSER 2, and ESSER 3. And then page 2 has the ESSER 2 budget explained out, and then the ESSER 3 potential budget laid out. And there's 3 points I would like to make. The first one is this allows the board to review the decisions we've made with this fund that's provided by the federal government. Secondly, this may serve in the long run that we really haven't been given detailed instructions. If you recall, ESSER 1 and ESSER 2, there weren't a lot of requirements in order to claim and then spend that money. There were fences around it as far as you had to deal with education and recovering from the Safer at Home. ESSER 3 is going to be much more detailed, so much so that they haven't figured all the details out yet. But one of the items is going to be a series of public notifications of what do you intend to do, what are you going to do, and how are you going to prove that you did it. So this is serving that purpose, hopefully, so we're not playing behind when it does enter into, hey, it's completed, here's how you can claim those funds. The one thing that I'm hearing that is for certain is that there will be a time in which the public schools will have to host a meeting with the public about ESSER funds. Same structure as our annual meeting, not the same as our regular board meetings. When that is all firmed up, I think we'll be in a good position. And the third thing that we could have open are there other ideas? Are there items, questions about ESSER 3 as far as our potential expenditures?
I just want to say that I feel really good about when I look down the list of ways that we have and plan to spend the funds, that I feel like we've done such a good job targeting. I know that some of the stipulations dictated how we spent it, but I feel like we've done a really good job at targeting the whole child, social, emotional, safety, catching up academically. There's just so many ways that I feel like we've used and plan to use the money, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Questions, comments on the ESSER funds update?
The next presentation will be the Student Services update. Dr. Max Long.
Jim, do I come up anywhere and stand?
I believe the podium would be a great place for you.
That works for me.
Timer started.
Josh isn't here.
All right, folks, apologize if my voice is a little bit hoarse, speaking for 8 hours. That to you. Well, though. So special education and pupil services. Just kind of an overview of our staff. I broke this down into different areas. We have early childhood special education teacher. We have 2 special education teachers specifically over at Neil Wilkins. We have 4 special education teachers at Westview, 4 special education teachers at high school, and 5 special education teachers at the middle school. Some of the therapists and related service providers that we have 3 full-time and 1 60% speech therapist, 2 full-time occupational therapists, 1 60% physical therapist. With school counselors at Neil Wilkins, we have 1 60%. Part-time school counselor. Over at Westview, we have 1, middle school 1, and at the high school now, we have 2, which is thus far been amazing. Just in terms of our broader pupil services team as well, we have myself, Director of Student Services, a school psychologist, school nurse, school social worker, English as second language, ESL teacher, behavioral interventionist, John Richter, who's at Westview, and we also have community resource officer who houses under that umbrella as part of the student services team. I wanted to kind of provide an overview of sort of the frameworks with we operate in student services. And all of this, as I was kind of developing this graphic, could be nested underneath the broader umbrella of supporting inclusion for all students. We have our overarching social emotional learning framework, which in middle school and high school, we use 7 mindsets. Last year, we had some licenses for 7 mindsets at Westview. We also use second step at Westview, and something that we have discovered as we go down further with our learners at Neil Wilkins. Second step is another social emotional learning framework. It tends to service younger children a little bit more effectively in comparison to 7 mindsets. So that's the reason why there are 2 instead of just 1. And as you go down even further, there are other practices that are tied in with social emotional learning that work better for younger populations. And I illustrate that because it looks like there's a lot of things that do the same thing, and they kind of do in ways, but they're purposefully arranged depending upon what population they're targeting. Today, the trauma-informed care training, 7 essential ingredients of trauma-informed care. Trauma-informed care is not another thing that's stacked alongside social emotional learning. It's something that sort of
fits within it. It's more tools to add to our toolbox in supporting students, families, as well as each other. Subdivided within that can be more refined practices targeted either supporting mental health, but with the understanding that our teachers and professionals, we do have school-based mental health professionals, but not all teachers are mental health professionals. Some might have a degree or a background we don't know about, you never know. But at the same time, there are practices that they can use in working with students who may have mental health concerns, such as restorative practices or things within crisis prevention intervention, which help de-escalate students who may be struggling with anxiety and helps teachers and school professionals recognize what are called precipitating factors, or factors which may contribute to a student's sort of state of being when they come to school, and support their adaptiveness in accessing learning. I put personnel in the middle because sometimes I think it's important to recognize our personnel, whether it be our pupil services staff, like our school psychologists, our school social worker, our school counselors. You think about the collective experience that they all bring to the table, and beyond this, some of the trainings that they had either in graduate school or just throughout their career to help develop them in supporting students' mental health and well-being. That is an aspect that, whereas they don't necessarily represent an overarching school-based framework, they do have skills in which they work with students with mental health needs on an individualized basis, irregardless of whether they're receiving services under disability labels or what are called 504 plans. We also have interagency partnerships with outside agencies in which therapists and counselors come into our school and work with students to also address mental health concerns. Nonviolent crisis intervention is also something that kind of nests underneath our broader social emotional learning practices, where that's focused on restorative practices, which is more ground level finite practices, anxiety reduction, what's called the coping model, which is a restorative practice, reflecting upon what happened, what are the perspectives of those involved, and what plans or steps can we work together to develop next time to make better decisions or self-regulate more efficiently. We also have, when we look at some of the finite practices associated with student services staff, we have them designated to help address mental health. Some, like our school social worker, participate in community outreach efforts to help engage community organizations to help support us. She's set up groups with, I think, family advocates at the high school, peer-mediated groups and things of that nature. School safety as well, something that we've worked on through through NASRO, the National Association of School Resource Officers, is providing training to our professionals, school psychologists, counselors, social worker, in risk and threat assessment practices, so that they're adept at navigating things such as if there's a concern related to suicide risk or a school threat or something like that. These individuals, per their own education, as well as the training they've received that we've reinforced through NASRO, are adept at navigating those. And we included that in our handbook as well for threat assessments. All right. Just to kind of provide an overview of kind of how the student services team is structured. You know, you have the overarching school or student services team, which includes all of these individuals. And we'll meet on some of our Wednesdays is a vertical team in which we'll discuss just needs throughout our schools and how we can support and what we can do to help, which also filters down into sort of the building level student services teams, which would do that on more of a ground level. In terms of this year, we have it to where they're sort of embedding in some of the grade level teams and horizontal teams at the different schools and taking in that information during some Wednesdays, working together within their building team, and then bringing it back to the broader district-wide student services team. So it kind of creates this almost cyclical support model of where there's many involved in supporting our students of varied capacities and expertise. All right. Some professional development and training, and this isn't exhaustive, but these are some sort of highlights that I think will serve us well, is Jamie Andrews and Jackie Rui. We had a solid opportunity, or for quite a deal. We were able to get them certified as autism clinical specialists through a training this summer, which will be very valuable to us as a district with some of our increasing needs, because not all practices for servicing students with autism just are used to service students with autism. They could be used in other areas to support all students as well. Laura Melby, John Richter, and myself attended a 4-day training centered on the 7 essential ingredients of trauma-informed care, which enabled us to do the training today, and future trainings with all staff throughout the district, which is great. It's a good learning experience for us as well. And what the 7 essential ingredients model is focused on is prevalence, developing an understanding of the prevalence of trauma, the impact, perspective shift, supporting student regulation and self-regulation too, relationships, reason to be, and supporting caregiver capacity. So the capacity of the educator to be in a state in which they can effectively support our students. Go on to the next one. Thank you, Jim. Some of the things that will kind of continue that worked out well in the past, Michelle Kellogg and I collaborate, and we behavior intervention training to our student services staff as well. And this one's more localized to staff who will be involved in the development of behavior plans and identifying different intervention strategies to embed within behavior plans. For our new special education teachers, we've offered them the IEP boot camp through CISA 3, which is a 2-day event. We also offer 2 IEP boot camps internally as well to support their professional development and all the procedural stuff, the paperwork, but also understanding as well how the paperwork is the heart of the student's programming and drives their programming moving forward. For special education assistance this year, we have the Center for All Trainings. We offer the crisis intervention training through John or myself. We're both certified trainers. Today, all special education assistants participated in the 7 essential ingredients of trauma-informed care training. They get the full dose of it today. And we have also had them in the past do what are called affirm modules, which are focused on different evidence-based practices, originally geared towards supporting students with autism, but many of these practices can be doled out in many different ways, not just focused on that. Also this year, I have our academic career plan from last year, which we will go over as well in an upcoming board meeting, because that's something that we do annually. But something that's been a goal this year that we wanted to get to 2 years ago, and then May 15th happened, which kind of put that to the wayside a little bit, is we were working with students to develop career portfolios to present at the spring parent-teacher conferences. This is something that we're going to pick up the ball and run at again, because we're all ready to do it. We just need to do it at this point. And then this year, our goal is to continue to develop community partnerships and support exploration of post-secondary activities. We will need to add some members this year, so I'm looking forward to kind of checking out who's on our staff, maybe some new staff members who may bring some new ideas to the table to help us further develop this plan. All right, I think that was the last slide.
It is?
It is.
Okay. Any questions for Dr. Long?
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Future board agenda items. Maybe not necessarily a board agenda item. In roughly 2 months is the annual meeting. And speaking with Lynn, the rotation this year falls on the university/Southwest Tech. So if you have someone in mind, maybe plant the seed now and see someone would be interested in chairing the meeting later on in October. Anything else? Moving on to action items, seclusion and restraint report.
So we have an annual requirement for the board to approve a seclusion and restraint. We have the policies listed, and these are recent policies that we've worked through. And we have seclusion and restraint from 1920. That is just something that I had requested of Dr. Long to put in there, just to try and keep track of how are we from year to year. And then the seclusion and restraint report for August 25th, 2021, for board action. And if there's questions, you can direct them to Dr. Long.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Kurt, second by Vicky to approve the seclusion and restraint report as presented. Questions or comments? Seeing or hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Policies.
Yes, the second and final reading of another group of 400 policies.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Vicky, second by Matt to approve the second and final reading of the policies as presented. Questions or comments on any of those? Seeing or hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Move to
We're
adjourn.
gonna be here all night because
Yeah.
Josh isn't here.
We do.
I'll second that.
Motion by Matt, second by Kurt to adjourn. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, one and all.